What is good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of JohnnyVTV Live. Join with me, my boy, Nick Durst. How we doing, brother? How was your weekend?
Weekend was good. A little snow here in New York, which sucked. But, it was a good holiday weekend. Get the Monday off from work. So that was good. And now we're back to it. And one day closer to the weekend already by starting the work week on a Tuesday. So can't complain.
Yeah, pretty good. I mean, always getting one day short of the work week is always a treat. Dude, this weekend was pretty cool. It was a rough day Saturday for me betting wise. Like the Patriots just I missed the total read on that game. I didn't have a good read on it. I was so surprised how flat they came out in every facet of the ball. The Raiders got robbed. They should have at least covered. It clearly looked like the refs had a Bengals -6 ticket in their back pocket all week. It was a horrible officiating crew, and I'm happy that they're not going to be up there for the rest of the playoffs at least. But Sunday, dude, Niners, baby, all over it. I told Joey Cows last time he was on the show last week, I was like, bro, bet the house on the Niners. If you don't have a house, buy one, then go bet it. They came home. It was a no-doubter, no sweater, even though Jimmy G did his best to give the game away. And let's just call it what it is, by the way. If Jimmy Garoppolo was the most handsome player in the NFL, he would be bagging groceries. There's just no way we can trust this guy with all this on the line. Thank God he's got a good team around him.
Well, before we talk about that game, I do want to talk about your excellent meteorology skills. I loved watching your weather updates from your balcony out there in Tampa. Weather actually played no factor, and it was a nice day. But as you said, Florida weather could change on a dime. But listen, I think Jimmy G is a guy who can win you a Super Bowl. Everything has to go the right way. I mean, they're going to lose this week, but I mean, I think this is the last game that Jimmy G plays. I don't see how going to Trey Lance next season puts the 49ers in a better situation. Because basically what they're telling you is if Lance starts next season, that means that they are ready to go to the NFC Championship game. Because that means they think he can get them further than Jimmy G, which would be the NFC Championship game, which I have a hard time believing based on what I saw from him this season in limited opportunities.
Yeah, man. I just listen. It's nice to have what Trey Lance has done in some of his time is hit or miss, right? I think so far what I see from Trey Lance, he's very Colin Kaepernick-esque in the early 2010s. Like he is a good fit for a run-first offense. He can make some throws when he needs to, but if you have to consistently rely on his arm, moving the ball downfield via the pass, I just don't know if it's going to be consistent enough to have the Niners have success. Because when you look at it, if the Niners beat the Packers, we can go to the NFC Championship game. How do you turn around and say, yeah, Jimmy G, he's not our guy? We think we're going to get further with Trey Lance. That, to me, I just don't know if it's time for that. Like, Garoppolo needs to be making key throws. He made a couple last week, but on a 3rd and 11, Brandon Ayuk, who, by the way, cooked Trayvon Diggs, double move Diggs, got absolutely exploited on a prime time stage like he has been all season, but Garoppolo missed him. That was a key moment on 3rd and 11. Ayuk was wide open. He could have just lollipopped that one in there, and it was a big first down. But I think ultimately what the Niners are doing, their system, their formula, that works. Heavy ground attack. Pass when you need to. You have playmakers that are yak daddies that can get open at will. And when you look at it, their defense is pretty good. And, it's not as good as it's been in previous years. But when you still look at it, they were top 6, top 7 in total defense, pass defense, running defense, top 6 in takeaways. Like, they were a pretty good defense. Or not top 6 in takeaways, but they were a pretty good defense. So I think for San Francisco, it's hard to be moving on from Jimmy Garoppolo just yet, especially if they win this game. But I'm excited for this game in Lambeau Field this week. But we're definitely going to get more into that. So it is divisional round, Nick. It's divisional round. Tell me, what matchup are you looking forward to the most?
I'm really excited for Bills Chiefs. I've been on the Bills all season. This Chiefs team, I don't really think is that fantastic. But the Bills, geez, they looked like the best teams ever looked. They got a touchdown every possession. Allen had more touchdowns than incompletions, 5 touchdowns and 4 incompletions. So that's really going to be quite the exciting matchup for sure.
Yeah, you know what, dude? Looking at the Bills Chiefs here, let's call it what it is. When the Bills beat the brakes off them earlier in the season, this wasn't the same Chiefs team that we're seeing now. What Kansas City has done this year, they're nowhere close to what they've been the last few years. That being said, they have been putting on a clinic. They still look like a team that is capable of winning a Super Bowl. They scored 30 points in 5 of their last 6 games. The only time they did it was against Denver, where they scored 28 points. Still scored 30 points 10 times this year. And Patrick Mahomes is playing out of his mind. So with a 17 touchdown to 2 pick ratio over his last 6 games, I think Mahomes has this team in prime position to make another run at a Super Bowl. And it's so hard to beat Kansas City twice in the same season. It just is. At home now, again, they're within a field goal. The defense, I think, is so overrated. But you know what? I think the Bills' defense is overrated too. I've been out on the Bills all year. Preseason, I just didn't think that they were that good. Now, when Josh Allen is playing at his ceiling and not playing mistake football, you see what they can do. They put up a 40-piece on the Patriots this past weekend. I just don't know if I see the game going in that direction. I think Kansas City is going to have enough success on the ground game. Mahomes is going to be able to make throws. He might not get those explosive plays we're accustomed to seeing, as has been the whole year. But I think with Kelsey over the middle, Tyreek Hill maybe hopefully a little bit healthier coming off that heel injury, I think he's going to be able to find a way to have enough to get them past the Bills and into the AFC Championship game.
Well, I've been on the Bills all season saying they're the best team in the AFC, so I'm going to stick by my pick for the Super Bowl, which is the Bills, and I think they're going to win this game by at least 10. I think the Bills are that much better than the Chiefs. I saw them beat them earlier in the season with ease, and now the Bills are clicking on all cylinders right now. They're a team of momentum. We said it a few weeks ago on this show when they were going into their second matchup with the Patriots that they were kind of just going to roll from there. And, ultimately they're a tornado-like wins away situation from being the 1 seed in the AFC. So if they were to beat the Patriots, they would have got the 1 seed. They lose that, so they got to go to Kansas City, which is going to be tough. But I think the key is going to be, having Josh Allen run around early. It seems like the Chiefs tend to struggle a bit when they are going against a mobile quarterback, as you saw against the Bills early in the season and you saw against the Ravens with Lamar Jackson. So I understand why in the regular season you don't want to have your quarterbacks run because, you want them to stay healthy. But if your best option to win a playoff game is to do the run-pass option with the quarterback, I don't see why you wouldn't be scheming that up. I think that's something where the Bills are able to take advantage of that big time against their opponents.
Listen, that's a fair point. Everything, and I do think Josh Allen running the ball is one of the pivotal keys to success for this Buffalo team. I mean, we've seen Allen really start carrying the ball a lot over the last 6 weeks. He's got 53 totes, and they're a different offense when he's consistently carrying the rock on his own accord. I mean, but just at the end of the day, man, I think the Chiefs are going to be ready to stand up for this one. I think they not only win, but they cover. This line's been teetering between 2 and 2.5 points, especially if you get KC inside a field goal at home in a revenge game, prime time. They've been rolling, dude. They've won 10 of their last 11. Listen, you're Bills, I'm Chiefs. I just don't see KC losing in this situation for the second time this season. It is so tough to beat a team twice in one season. Not that it can't happen, but I don't buy this Bills team.
Do you think this line is going to drop to 1 by game time? Because I think money's probably coming to the Bills.
there is money coming in on the Bills for sure, but don't forget, dude, there's still a lot of people that are Patrick Mahomes truthers till they die. They back Mahomes no matter what. We've seen it all season. I've been hearing about it all season. No matter what the line is, no matter who they're playing, people will run to the window to back Patrick Mahomes just because he's Patrick Mahomes. Even if the line's not good, even if there's not a lot of value to that line, I think there's just the essence that he's Patrick Mahomes. So I'm going to go put all my money on him just because he's maybe the most talented quarterback this game has ever seen. And listen, rightfully so. Earlier in the season, he wasn't playing well. This offense wasn't clicking. They were forcing way too many deep shots that just were not there because teams were playing the cover two shell. Do you remember when he was in that early midseason turnover fiesta, just nonstop interceptions and fumbles, and he's cleaned that up considerably. He's learned to be patient, take what the defense is giving him. And I think Buffalo is going to do their best to not allow the big play, keep everything 15 yards in. But you know what? KC, they're capable of going on those 10, 12 play drives that consume 6-7 minutes. As long as Mahomes stays patient, bro, like, especially without Tre'Davious White, like, this secondary is not that good. Yeah, like, Jordan Poyer, Micah Hyde's been one of the better safety tandems the last few years in the league. But truth be told, man, like, their linebacking core, yeah, Edmonds is strong. Milano's okay. Like, I just think they're a tad overrated. They're a good defense, but they're not great. They're not as good as their league-leading points per game defense, among the best in takeaways. It's just not there. They've been the beneficiaries of a very butter schedule this season. They haven't beaten too many good teams. After beating the Patriots, they beat the Jets, they beat the Falcons, who they struggled with. And listen, I'm not going to take it away. They came in with a great game plan. They blew the doors off New England. And that does carry a lot of momentum. But let's not forget here. And even though the Steelers aren't up to the same par, Kansas City gets down 7-0. Cool. Boom. 35 unanswered points plus. I just think KC, it's their time here to get revenge.
So obviously this is the rematch from last year, the AFC title game. In that game, you know, the Bills could not get to Patrick Mahomes. So all offseason they had to figure out, how are we going to get to Patrick Mahomes? And you watch Super Bowl, that's how you could beat Patrick Mahomes, get to him. So they did a great job with their first round draft, like, get an okay season, but Gregory Rousseau, they drafted this guy specifically for this game to get to Patrick Mahomes off the edge. So it's going to be huge on him to do that. And I mean, this game, it's a high over under, but you have to take the over, I would think. I mean, this is going to be score after score after score, I think.
You know what, dude? If we're looking at the totals, I think I'm going to lean under here. I think the over is just too obvious of a play. This is an extremely high total. I don't have it in front of me, but it's something along the lines of over 60%. Any line in divisional round that over the last 10 years that closes 54 or higher is the under at 60 to 65%. So while these two teams can score, I think it's going to be more of a chess match. I think this is more going to be like a 27-24 game. It might touch in the 50s, but 55, man, that is a lot of points. And I just don't know if I see it going that way.
Yeah, I think it's going to be the 30s. So we'll see. But I like that stat you said there. Do you think this is a game where both of these offensive coordinators are head coaches next season?
I mean, they both should be. There's no reason why. I mean, Eric Bieniemy's been talked about. The Chiefs OC has been talked about being a head coach for the last few years, and he's not one. And I have a theory that's based on nothing but just my own opinion of just like reading in between the lines of the news. The guy could easily be a head coach, but I just feel like he likes a situation in Kansas City and the right opportunity hasn't come. This is not a guy he's not a guy who has to take the first offer that's there. You know what I mean? Like he's afforded the privilege of, first of all, he's a great coach, but he's afforded the privilege of playing or having Patrick Mahomes on the field. The Chiefs are always going to be a team that's dangerous. He's always going to get a lot of credit because the Chiefs are always going to be one of the best offenses in the league. Andy Reid's a fantastic play caller. Bieniemy's got that in his back pocket. He's got a track record of having these offenses be top 3, top 5 every season over the last few years. So I think he's definitely in line for a head coaching job. Again, whether he takes it or not, I think there's several good ones. I like Minnesota. I like Chicago. You know, I suppose Denver, if you're going to get a guy like Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers out there. And in terms of Brian Daboll, same type of scenario. You know, last 2 seasons, the Buffalo offense has been awesome. And he's turned Josh Allen into what everybody expected him to be. So these 2 guys, I would imagine they're gone next season for sure. It just depends if they feel like it's the right fit. They will have plenty of offers. Whether they take them or not is up to them. But I think more than likely they'll both be head coaches.
So I think, you know, if the assistant GM from the Bills gets hired as a GM anywhere, seems like good chance the Giants are going to hire him. Then he's going to hire Daboll, I think, wherever he goes. So I think I'd be shocked if he didn't hire him and they came together. And then if it's a bad team, they probably bring over like Trubisky or something as a backup and kind of just see what happens there. That's what I think. But I would like to see at some point, it's not going to happen this year, Steve Spagnuolo get another chance to coach. His head coaching opportunity, he went to the Rams. The team was horrible. That wasn't really on him. And then, you know, people forget this because Mahomes, Kelsey, Hill, but when they won the Super Bowl with the Chiefs, their defense was really good. And Spagnuolo was a big part of their success.
Absolutely, no question about it. We see what he can do with a defense. He was an instrumental part in the Giants' runs back then, like creating havoc on Tom Brady. People forget. People always point to Eli Manning, bro, but it was the Spagnuolo defenses. It was the defenses that got to maybe the best offense of all time with Tom Brady in the 07 Patriots. Record-setting Tom Brady. So, you know, Steve Spagnuolo definitely is probably going to be garnering some attention. There's a lot of openings, so he should get a shot. But I want to move on here. The game that I'm looking forward to, come on, we know where we're going. I might be going to the game this weekend. Rams at the Bucks. The Bucks open -3. This line has moved back down to 2.5. I expect there to be some push-pull in that 2.5, 3 market. If I'm a Rams backer, I don't like this. I don't like the fact that it got inside a field goal. Ultimately, though, where are you leaning with this one?
Well, I mean, we're going to be on opposite ends of the spectrum here. So I'm going to go with your hometown team, the Bucks. They look scary. I mean, the Eagles stink. So maybe it's time to revisit the fact that the 7 seed is a thing in the playoffs because both 7 seeds were just atrocious. And I don't know, the 7 team's never going to win a playoff game, at least for a long time. So, I mean, Gronkowski, 15 touchdown in the postseason. Most all time for a tight end now, which is incredible. Evans was just ridiculous. We're thinking Fournette's going to play this week, I think. I mean, but the big question is going to be Tristan Wirfs going to be a big loss if he can't play. He's in a walking boot, so we'll see. So I'm going to go on the assumption that Fournette is playing, and I do think that the Bucs will win this game. You know, they got just such a high-powered attack where basically everybody's contributing right now. The Rams, I mean, my guy Odell Beckham Jr. looks incredible, but the Bucs are just spreading it all over. So, I mean, if I was like, "Hey, Johnny, Evans is going to win this game for the Bucs," he'd be like, "Okay." I said, "Gronk's going to win this game for the Bucs," he'd be like, "Okay." And if I was like, Fournette's going to run all over and win this game, he'd be like, "Okay, that makes sense," because all different players there, and the defense looked pretty solid last week, but then again, I mean, the Eagles were just the absolute disaster. So defending champs at home here, I like their chances. And for the most part, other than last year when they themselves won and beat the Saints, they continuously, the 2 seed and the 1 seed pretty much make the championship game every single year. And as you mentioned earlier, very hard for a team to lose in the regular season and then lose again in the postseason. I do think that game would have been a lot closer had Gronk not got injured early in the first half with the broken rib. So I think as far as the Rams are concerned here, they really need to game plan for Gronkowski, who arguably, Johnny, believe it or not, is probably playing the best football of his career right now. And I just don't know. I
I'm
don't know.
not going to
I
go
don't know
that
who's
far.
going to stop him. You don't think so? I mean, he's on a tear right now.
Bro, there was seasons he was putting up 1,100 yards, so I'm not going to go that far. He's playing revitalized for sure. He's definitely an X factor. He looks good. Since he's returned, he looks healthy. But let's call it what it is, man. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, last season, they got hot at the right time. They really sustained no injuries, no key injuries. This year's a different story. They look good because they're playing the worst of the worst. They're beating the worst. They beat Carolina. They beat the Jets. They beat the Eagles. Of course, they're going to be putting up 30 points and look good. Like that's a given. And I understand it is difficult to beat a team twice in the season. I said this way back when in week 3. I don't know if you remember this. I said this. If the Bucs beat the Rams in this week 3 game, the Rams are definitely going to beat the Bucs in the postseason. If the Rams beat the Bucs in week 3, I think the Rams still have a good shot to beat the Bucs. Same holds true. These are two different teams. The Bucs, they don't have Chris Godwin. He does more than just rack up yards, touchdowns, catches. He dictates how defenses have to play. He's great in the run game as a blocker. Move him all over the field. It dictates different coverages. He's just such a key loss. And in a big game like this is huge. Antonio Brown runs off the field like he's on the Jerry Springer show. Leonard Fournette, even if he comes back, he's not fully healthy. Mike Evans, yes, he played great. Rob Gronkowski, he's playing very well. But their defense, their key players just coming back from injury. We don't know, how good they're going to be in this one. The Shaq Barretts, the JPPs, the Levante Davids. The fact of the matter is this. The Bucs defense was probably better earlier in the season. They got lit up by Matthew Stafford and the Rams. Matthew Stafford had over 340 yards, 4 tutties, put up a 34-piece at home. Yes, it's on the road, but how am I going to jump ship on the team I've been harping on all season long? I put a futures bet on them. I put more money on them right before the playoffs started. The Rams are the side, in my opinion. What's not being talked about enough, I think, in the mainstream media, over the last 7 weeks, I think Sean McVay, after that 3-game losing streak, took a good look in the mirror at himself and said, okay, what do I need to do to put this offense in a better position? They were getting too pass happy, taking way too many shots downfield, not having enough balance. Since that game against the Jaguars, they're averaging about 27, 28 carries per game over the last 7 weeks, right? So now you add Cam Akers back in the fold, who, by the way, looked fantastic just 6 months after tearing his Achilles. That's superhuman that he's even back on the field. He looked good, quick, fast, powerful, decisive, confident. This is a guy who you put in the backfield with Sony Michel, maybe Darrell Henderson if he's back, and we're looking at a formidable opponent. And I don't think Tampa Bay's third best run defense is truly echoing what we've seen in the past from them. I think they're beatable now against a good run defense that can mix in the pass. Stafford can just gut you if you let him sit back there pretty much unscathed. The Rams, they've been one of the best lines all season. Last couple weeks, aside from yesterday, they've had some issues keeping Stafford upright and relatively unscathed. I want to say Cooper Kupp obviously has been out of his mind this year, but ultimately the ground game for LA is going to be the big factor on offense because we know what Stafford and this passing attack can do. And I think, quite frankly, this Bucs defense is not the same defense as last year. I think the Rams were probably good for about 27 points, which is what they averaged throughout the season.
You think Brady and Arians are going to pick on Eric Waddle this weekend?
You know what, man? Listen. I'm expecting the Bucs offense to do well, even without Chris Godwin, without Antonio Brown. I think Mike Evans, Gronk, if Fournette comes back, it could be had because here's the big factor. The middle of the defense is where you want to attack the Rams. They're a slow linebacking core. They're not that good. The Rams' 6th best run defense is very overrated this season, in my opinion. I think the middle of their defense, excluding Aaron Donald, is pretty soft. So running the ball repeatedly at them is where they've had struggles this year. Also, what Tom Brady loves to do, aside from stat padding, is the short passing game. Getting Fournette, getting Bernard, Keyshawn Vaughn out of the backfield, Gronk over the middle, attacking in between the seams. That's where they can win. Ramsey and Mike Evans, it's going to be a testosterone fiesta this week. I think middle of the defense, ground game, take your shots when you have them is where you're going to find success. But ultimately, if Mike Evans is taken out of this game by Jalen Ramsey, who has, he does pretty well against physical corners. He's got a pretty good track record against it. So that's a real scenario. Then the Bucs are going to, have to make up for it in the short passing game. And ultimately, like if Tristan Wirfs is out, Von Miller, Aaron Donald, this front four might be able to get Brady off his spot, pressure him, make him feel uncomfortable, even force him into a mistake or two. I just don't think we're looking at the same Bucs team. Now, if they come out and they win, they put up 30, would it surprise me? Absolutely not. It's Tom Brady. You know what I'm saying? But I just don't know if I see it this year. I think the Rams win this one 27, 28 to 23 or 24. I think it's going to be a 4 or 5 point game in the Rams' favor. They're going to be moving on to either Green Bay or San Francisco next week. So that does it for the Sunday games. The Saturday games, let's just go back down the order here. Saturday night, Nick, we got the Niners at the Packers. What's your initial thought on this one?
Yeah, I think Kyle Shanahan's going to do what Kyle Shanahan does in big spots, and that is not show up. So the Packers here are going to win this one. I know 5.5 is a big line, and the 49ers defense looked good last week. But I think the Cowboys are kind of just, on paper as a good team. They were really a good team. And I think the Packers are going to win this one. I don't really know how they're going to stop Davante Adams. I'm not really sure who won the Niners. I mean, obviously Bosa. Who's really going to get to Rodgers? I don't know. You don't really necessarily want to get Rodgers out of the pocket because that's when he seems to always, find Adams wide open, who is going to break away from a defender. I don't see really any scenario here that the 49ers are going to be competitive in this one. So I like the Packers here big time.
So in my upcoming article on NBC Sports Edge this week, I actually wrote this game up this afternoon. And I tend to agree with you in the fact that I think it could be a tough day. By the way, it's going to be 7 degrees in Lambeau Field on Saturday night. This is going to be by far the coldest game Kyle Shanahan's crew has ever had to play in since he's been the head coach. And, listen, Rodgers on a bye week had a chance to get healthier. Adams, Aaron Jones, all these guys had some nice rest. I think their chance, obviously Nick Bosa on defense is huge. That's a huge factor. And I really, really hope he plays. But ultimately, DeMeco Ryans, their defensive coordinator, cannot allow Davante Adams to just run wild like he did last meeting. He had 12 catches for $132 and a tutty last time. So I think you're going to have to double cover him, bracket him. And if you have to go one-on-one with these other receivers like Almazard, MVS, so be it. If they beat you, so be it. Do not let Davante Adams run wild again. And the Niners have one of the better run defenses in football this year, for sure. And Bosa definitely plays a part of that when he's when he's healthy. Fred Warner is projected to be back, no problem this week. But I think where you can take advantage if the Niners take Adams out of the game, you have to stop the run because Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon combined for over 2,300 scrimmage yards this year. They're maybe the best running back duo in the league. So they could both hit you in the ground game as well as the receiving game. So Fred Warner on Aaron Jones or A.J. Dillon coming out of the backfield is going to be pivotal as well because Jones can gas you for 100 yards through the air. You know what I mean? So I definitely think if you're San Francisco, you have to get upfield with 4 guys, double Davante Adams, make Rodgers go somewhere else, but you got to get to Rodgers. Like, yeah, maybe you don't want him running around out of the pocket, but you can't let him sit back there all day and pick you apart. So you got to make sure you're getting home or at least smelling Rodgers because all that pressure has a cumulative effect over the course of a game. So I think ultimately if San Francisco can execute that formula and especially in the red zone, keep those touchdowns to field goals, keeping the Packers under 24 points is going to be pivotal because they're 12-2 when they've scored 24 points in a game this year.
Yeah, I like, pressure is the name of the game. That's why he's never understood. Maybe you disagree with me. I don't know why teams go with the 3-4. I think the 4-3 is just so much more effective, especially against elite quarterbacks. I feel like the teams that do the 4-3, they always tend to go a lot further when it comes to the playoffs. That's just my opinion.
No, it's a fair point. I think offensively as well, Nick, you got to have a big game on the ground. You have to have a big game on the ground. Zadarius Smith, Jair Alexander might come back for Green Bay this week. Regardless, Green Bay's defense has been pretty good all season, and especially they've been really good in the takeaway department. They're top 10. I think they had 26 takeaways this year. So the important thing is sort of execute it how you did against Dallas last week. Go a ground-heavy approach with Eli Mitchell, who's been an absolute horse when he's been healthy this year, and Deebo Samuel. Try and create a lot of positive momentum, trying to keep Green Bay sideline on the field, offense on the sideline. They have the best time of possession in the league on offense this year, Green Bay does. So the ground game has to act as a clock chewer, got to move the ball, keep Aaron Rodgers on the sideline, as well as execute the short passes. Like Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk, I mentioned it earlier. They are yak daddies. Got to hit the short passes when they're there. Let those guys take care of the rest. And listen, if you have a shot downfield, don't be afraid to take it. Just don't make the big mistake. I think if you're the Niners, you don't want to be in 3rd and longs, having Jimmy G have to sit back there and try and, make key throws, because that's not where you want to live if you're the San Francisco 49ers. The ground game, as always, is pivotal. You cannot allow Green Bay just to force you into 3rd and longs. You have to get up the field, especially on early downs. I think San Francisco's got to have to run the ball at least 25 times in this game. That's something they've done 13 out of 18 games this season, and it's proved pretty much successful. Also, if you're the Niners, you can't let Green Bay get too big of a lead and force you out of your game plan. So that's where playing key defense comes into its role. Ultimately, though, Nick, I think this is not bet the house territory like it was for me last week, but especially if the Niners are 5.5, you know what I say, always take the road dog on this number. It's as sure as the sun will rise that I have to take this number. I just can't fade them. There's something weird about this number if it closes here. I think the Niners are going to come to play. I truly meant it when I said no team wants to face them. They're dangerous. The thing is, dude, their formula travels. So they're not an aerial attack team that needs to throw to score points. They can do it via the ground. And I think San Francisco is going to find a way to get this done. I don't necessarily think they win. It wouldn't shock me, but I think they definitely cover the spread via 5, 5.5, 6, 6.5, whatever that number may be. Wrapping up here on our last game, though. How you feeling about this Bengals-Titans game? Titans laying 3.5 at home, fresh off the bye week.
Common sense would say you got to pick the Titans here because the 1 seed always goes to the AFC title game. But, if the Bengals play like they did in the first half last week, Titans could be in some trouble. But, ultimately the Raiders closed it and the Bengals didn't finish off too strong. So if you tell me the Bengals are going to win this game, I wouldn't be surprised, but I'm going to pick the Titans. I think I'll bet the Bengals, though, plus 3.5. But I think the Titans are going to win this game because they're the home team. They're the 1 seed. They're off the bye. And the 1 seed always goes to the conference championship game.
All right, with the always, not always. Like it doesn't always happen.
When's the last time? Maybe like 6 years ago, 7 years ago?
I don't remember, but I know that doesn't always happen. For a fact, I know Atlanta was the 1 seed in 2010 and they got blown out by Green Bay. So,
12 years ago.
I know that for a fact. But no, listen, if I'm approaching this game from a betting aspect, from what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing and paying attention to the line movements and the market on it, I think this game that's been teetering between 3 and 3.5 is ultimately going to get back down to 3. So if I like Tennessee, which I do, I would back them at 3. I would wait. I wouldn't take this 3.5. That's a tough line. I think one of two things is going to happen. Cincinnati's going to keep this one down to the wire, or they're going to get blown clean out of the water. The one true king, Derrick Henry, is returning, or supposed to be returning. That creates a totally different approach for the Titans, who have still managed to overachieve harder than Pete Davidson has in the last 4 years. I really think that Tennessee coming off a bye.
By the way, Johnny, me and Pete went to high school together.
Did you?
Yes. He's the younger.
No, you didn't. Did you really?
Yes.
Yo, that's crazy. That's crazy.
We used to play basketball together. I did reject him one time we played. So
story time with Nick. But Listen, Derrick Henry coming back just opens up a different dimension for this offense, just flat out. I mean, let's look at it here. The Titans averaged 28 points per game with Derrick Henry versus 21 points per game without him. So clearly stating the obvious, not only his production, but the fact that he commands so much attention. Look at it. The Cincinnati Bengals passing defense is subpar, putting it kindly. So facing a lot of loaded boxes, that leaves Julio Jones coming back. That leaves A.J. Brown with potentially both one-on-one matchups. I love the look of that. The fact of the matter is Cincinnati's top 5 run defense is probably not going to look the same against Derrick Henry, even in his first game back. Let's not forget the fact that the Bengals, their key interior defensive lineman, Larry Ogunjobi, done. He's done for the season. Trey Hendrickson did practice today. His status, with concussions, it's very iffy. I mean, he's probably trending towards suiting up, but still, dude, I don't think this Bengals defense, who let Josh Jacobs run all over them, is necessarily primed to stop Derrick Henry. I just think Cincinnati, their running game looks terrible right now. Since that Week 12 blowout against the Steelers, Joe Mixon has looked horrible. They haven't rushed for 120 yards in the last 7 weeks. So I'm not sold on their running attack. Joe Burrow obviously can attack them through the air because the Titans' pass defense is not that good. But when you look at it, dude, even with Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and company, I just think it's a lot to ask for to be having Joe Burrow throw 40, 50 times in this game, ultimately. And let's call it what it is. If the Titans build the lead, the Bengals, while they did come back versus the Chiefs, they haven't been great in comeback mode this year. They're only 2-4 when they've been down 10 points. So I think they're going to have to establish the run. Tennessee's offense as well is second best in the league in time possession. So they're going to have to get off the field and keep it neutral. But ultimately, I like to weight this one down to 3 points, take Tennessee. If you had to put a gun in my head and to close at 3.5, I'd still probably take Tennessee. I think they win and they move on to play the Chiefs.
Is your guy Julio Jones going to do anything in this playoff?
I mean, it'd be nice if he got targeted. He doesn't get targeted. Julio Jones. Let's call it what it is. First, it sucks to see, but the last 2 seasons he's battling some bad injuries, and it looks like it's the same hamstring injury that plagued him last year. But when he's played and actually gotten involvement, because Tannehill either only throws to A.J. Brown or hands the ball off, he did really well. Look at Week 2 against Seattle. He put up 6 catches for, I think, 128 yards. He still looks good. He still looks like a guy that can make a huge difference. If you put Julio Jones one-on-one and you target him a healthy amount, a lot more times than he's going to lose, especially against this horrid Bengals pass defense.
How about this? Next year, Matt Ryan traded to the Broncos. Julio Jones signs with the Broncos to give it one last run with a good defense. What do you think?
I think I might be a Broncos fan if that's the case, because I'd love to see Matty Ice get a ring. I'd love to see Julio get a ring. I think they still both have a lot left in the tank. I really do. So you're on the Bengals here.
Titans to win, but if it's at 3.5, I'll take the Bengals.
What if it's 3?
The Bengals usually always play close. I think if it's 3, I would go Titans.
So that half point's a big difference for you.
Yeah, I think it's going to be like a 4-point game.
It's interesting. Like I said, they either get blown out of the water or they keep this one down to the wire. But as we're wrapping up here, we got the Gambling Guinea's best betting trends. We're going to start with the first game that we mentioned today. We're going to go with the Kansas City Chiefs minus 2.5 versus the Buffalo Bills. I got into it at nauseum of why I think Kansas City is ready for this rematch. I think they're a much different team over the last 10 weeks of this season. They figured out that the big play consistently is not going to be there. Patrick Mahomes is playing a lot more patient. He's on fire right now over the last 5 or 6 weeks. He's going to be patient, take what the defense gives him, be able to put up, I would say, 27-plus points in this one. And the defense is going to do just enough, make sure they keep Josh Allen honest and get to him and force him into some mistakes. Senior Josh Allen, your honor, no objections. Now, Nick, tell us who we got for the emerging player of the night.
Well, first, I want to, give myself and us a nice pat on the back for our emerging player last week, Rob Gronkowski. The pre-production meeting, there was some disagreements on who it should be, but ultimately we went with Gronk, who was tremendous, no doubt about it. But our emerging player of the night this week is your guy, Derrick Henry, making his long-awaited return. And we'll see how he's looking. I mean, there's been no reports as to physically where he's going to be out, but you know, what do you think? He's got to run the ball like 30 times. What do you think they need to do to get him going here?
Here's what I think. If Derrick Henry's active and he's playing, he's going to get at least 20 carries. I don't think they're putting him out there to be a situational 10-carry guy. And we've seen this in the past. Mike Vrabel had to live with this because he let the idiotic Matt LaFleur call plays in 2018 before Henry became Derrick Henry. The in-and-out system with Deion Lewis did not work. You need Henry to keep going. And Henry either gets stronger as the game goes on or the defense gets weaker. But the residual effect of him carrying the ball, let's say 15 to 20 times in the first 3 quarters, has a big effect on wearing an opposing defense down. So I think for that to happen, you have to keep him involved early and often. I don't think they brought him back just to be a situational guy. I think they're going to ride this horse all the way to the AFC Championship game. So closing up here, Nick, what are your final thoughts?
Yeah, I think first I want to give a shout out to our co-host Kyle. Not sure why he wasn't here, but I think maybe some miscommunication when we were discussing, is there going to be a guest tonight? You said not tonight. He must have thought that meant no show. I don't know what's going on with Kyle. Final thoughts. Two things here. One, growing up, I used to watch The Game on UPN and then BET. New season out on Paramount Plus right now. A good watch for football fans and team in Vegas, so like that. Also, everybody was seeing the new Spider-Man movie. I never saw any of the movies with Tom Holland, the Spider-Man. So last week I watched all 3. I don't know what the hype is. I don't like him as Spider-Man. Very much a wimpy kid, and he always needs the Marvel Avengers to save him. So I don't really like him, but it was cool to see, Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield come back. But I'd rather see Tobey Maguire at age 46 being Spider-Man movie than another movie like this with a 15-year-old Spider-Man.
You know what? I actually haven't seen the new one yet. I want to, only because Toby's in it, Green Goblin's in it, Doc Ock's in it. That's the only reason why. And I think, they did this to connect with our generation who grew up on Spider-Man, who we were 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old, 13 years old when Spider-Man, the real Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire, was out in theater. So I'm excited to see that. I'm also very nostalgic in it. On the front with new shows coming out, new seasons, we got a few monsters. First of all, we got Peaky Blinders coming out in a few weeks. I'm so excited. I've been waiting years for the new season. I'm currently rewatching it for the 7th time just to make sure, I'm up to speed. Next one's Ozark. It comes out in a few days. Season 4, part 1. I haven't seen it, since season 3 ended. I haven't rewatched it. So, it might take me a minute to get up to speed, but I'm very excited for that. And also one that people don't really know that much, The Righteous Gemstones. I think season 2 just came out. Really looking forward to that one. It's actually hysterical. It's with Danny McBride, a.k.a. Kenny Powers. So anything with him is usually a riot. So I'm excited to see that. But honestly, bro, on a sports front, let's call this what it is. Let me just have my moment of glory. Okay. This season, you were so sold on the Arizona Cardinals, Cliff Kingsbury, Kyler Murray for MVP. What happened? All year, you've been talking how good they are. They're going to be in the Super Bowl. And what did I tell you? They're frauds. They're not ready. It is not their time. They're very overhyped. And even Jahan, who we have to have on, you know what? I had to give him a little something yesterday. Like, you really picked against my Rams? You picked against Big Daddy Matthew Stafford? I don't think so. Let's cut it out, because Stafford, boom, they showed them what's up. They showed them who runs the NFC West. It's not the Arizona Cardinals. Now, there's real talk perhaps that Cliff Kingsbury, is he coming back next year? I would think so. I think Kingsbury should get one more year. If they don't, in my opinion, if the Cardinals with their talent don't make it to the NFC Championship game next year, I think Kingsbury should be out. Because quite honestly, look at it. Like, coming in a free agency, they're slated to lose a lot of guys. They're not going to lose all of them. Kirk, AJ Green, Ertz, James Conner, Chase Evans are probably going to bring a few of them back. But D-Hop, he's going to be a year older. Like, we've seen maybe the wear and tear is starting to come on him. Like, Kyler Murray's always hurt every year. Like, they tried to run him a lot less this year, and it still didn't matter. He still got hurt. And their defense isn't that good. Like, their front seven was pretty strong. Their secondary's not that good. Like, they have Budda Baker, who's great, who, thank God, he's okay after a scary hit yesterday. But I just think even with some guys coming back, this is not it. They're going to have a big draft. They're going to have a big free agency in order to keep this team competitive. And ultimately, I think Kingsbury should get one more year for development with Kyler Murray, because at times we've seen this Arizona offense be very fun to watch. But ultimately, if it doesn't go to the NFC Championship game, I think Kingsbury's got to go, because I'm sure, would be a lot better coaches that can unlock Kyler Murray's potential.
Well, first of all, I never said they were going to the Super Bowl. My Super Bowl pick was Packers-Bills all the way. So I said the Cardinals would win the NFC West, which I think if DeAndre Hopkins didn't get hurt, they would have. They could. I
don't know. He looked slow.
All they had to do was win a game, and they would have a game more. They would have won the NFC West. So I think he makes a big difference. They choked it away in Seattle. Never said anything about Kingsbury. Did like Kyler Murray. He had a good year. He got hurt though, so no MVP for him. But listen, I said I knew they were going to be a playoff team. You had them picking the top 10, but their season's over. And, I don't see why you would fire a coach if he just took you to the playoffs and you had your best record-wise season in years. But, if you're going to fire him, then I would think the 49ers should fire Shanahan next year if he doesn't go to the NFC title game, because he's putting all his eggs in the Trey Lance basket. And I don't know. I think the 49ers are going to take a step back next year. Rams and Cardinals still should be the two best teams in the NFC West. Seahawks, I think, Johnny, they're going to blow it up. I think, Carroll's going to maybe come back last year. I think Russell Wilson is not going to be back. So I'm really curious to see where he goes.
Yeah, there's a lot of suitors with him, Rodgers, Deshaun Watson, even Kirk Cousins. It's going to be a very interesting QB free agent class. This is going to be probably one of the biggest free agent QB classes in recent memory, if all the dominoes fall the right way. But certainly, I think it wouldn't be fair to fire Kingsbury right now, and I wouldn't fire Shanahan because he took you to a Super Bowl a few years ago, and you're in Lambeau fighting for a spot for the NFC Championship currently. I just think I don't like his coaching style, Kingsbury. And what I hate the most, and this is in all sports, but particularly football, because it's very play driven, play oriented. Coaches tend in the playoffs to get away from what got them there. The Cardinals don't want to admit it, but they are a run first team. They're not yes, they have the ability to be an aerial attack, but they are not a pass first team, nor should they be. Their running backs, when they were in the lineup, Connor, Edmonds, both had pretty good years. So I don't understand the incessant need to think Kyler Murray passing 40 times is their formula. It's not. As a matter of fact, it was the opposite of successful when Kyler Murray was passing over 35 times. They only won 1 or 2 games, I think. So I don't understand their approach yesterday against the Rams. They came out trying to pass the ball as opposed to establishing the run. Like we've seen the Rams. The Rams were had a lot of times this year against more physical offensive lines, teams that ran the ball repeatedly at them, kind of similar to what Dallas is, maybe not as bad, but we've seen them get exposed in recent weeks. Like look at the Niners, look at the Ravens. The teams that ran at them had a lot more success. But the fact that they just come out trying to throw the ball relentlessly just didn't bode well for them. And Aaron Donald, Von Miller, all these pass rushers were teeing off on them. And once you got down 14-0 and then 21-0, boom, dude. It was just, it doesn't work. So Cliff Kingsbury, he's got to make a lot of better in-game coaching decisions.
And also, I don't understand people are saying fire McCarthy. I mean, the Cowboys, The
He's gotta go.
Cowboys don't fire coaches unless they're there for like 5, 6, 7 years. So I don't see that them getting ready for him. He's going to be back next season, I think.
He will be, but he should go. Kellen Moore is gonna move on. You know, he had a pretty good year as a play caller, Kellen Moore. But ultimately, man, like Dallas fans finally had to realize what Packer fans had to go through all those years. Mike McCarthy, in a nutshell, this is when people are like, oh, what's wrong with McCarthy? In a nutshell, this is it. The guy had Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers back-to-back for over a decade and has one ring to show for it. That's all you need to know. Two of the greatest quarterbacks to ever suit up. He's only got one championship to show for it. That carries so much weight. And then look what he did in the post-game presser. He blames the ref because he couldn't get the ball spotted. Like, dude, like you had your team.
I can't believe Prescott wasn't fined for his comments about the ref.
Yeah, I mean, listen, brother, you know, that just goes to show what kind of coaching McCarthy is. Like, it's blame the refs, not blame myself for being unprepared or for having a really poor performance against the San Francisco team. Like, they just did not look ready. They thought they were probably just going to walk in there, put up 30, and move on to the NFC Championship game. Like, no, dude. Like, McCarthy is an underachiever in the playoffs. The only reason, in my opinion, that people think he's even an average coach, which, you know, I think he's average, not above average. He is the definition of average, is because Aaron Rodgers bailed him out of so many bad decisions. I want to know, let's say Kirk Cousins was the Packers QB all those years opposed to Aaron Rodgers. I then want to know how successful the Packers were going to be, because Rodgers covered up so many holes Green Bay's had for a decade. It's just that's just the fact of the matter. That's literally why the Packers were as successful as they were. But nonetheless, thanks for tuning in. Be sure to follow us on Twitter. I'm @_JohnnyVTV. He's at Nick_Durst. And we'll catch you next week. Best of luck this week.